Alright guys, as you can see, I've got the body hoisted up on the little 4-door 55 project. I'm going to make an attempt to try to slide the chassis out from under it so I can work on it. But kind of didn't really want to mess with this because it's kind of time consuming, but I think I've decided to just do a really quickie on the frame, and I think it'll be just fine. So anyway, I'll run you through how I've done this because I have never shown this before because it's really stupid, it's dangerous, a good way to get hurt. But anyway, this is not what you should do to remove a body, but this is the way I've been doing it since the 90s, and I've probably done just here since 2001 when we moved here. I've probably done about 15 body removals right here, same spot. So anyway, I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm a little winded because I was just running the floor jack there. Doesn't take much to wind me anymore. So what I do after I get all the body mounts out, all the stuff that's connected to the body to get it to ready to go, I'll take my regular size floor jack, which is this one back here from Harbor Freight, just to Pittsburgh, and I'll pick it up and set it on the other side of the cradle right here, right down here. I'll set that floor jack right there. I'll put a 1 concrete block lengthways on it, and then I take a 2x4 and lay it on top of it. The 2x4 is long enough, I don't know how long it is, just a scrap one I have, but it fits across floorboard to floorboard to skip the tranny tunnel. So at that point I'll go in there and I'll start jacking that floor jack up, and it'll bring that 2x4 up across right here into the floors, and it'll start raising the body up off the frame in the front. So when I get it up in the air, I'll put a concrete block lengthways up and down right here, and I'll use a brick right here, a flat brick, and then I'll put the 4x4 across there. Then I'll let the jack down, the body will come down on the 4x4. I'll pick up the jack, bring it around here, and at this point back here I have to use 2 concrete blocks. This is where it's really dangerous. This is really stupid. So I'm trying to do this on a tripod, so bear with me here. I've got the legs fully extended and everything. Anyway, I stack 2 concrete blocks on top of each other lengthways, and then I've got a 2x4 across it. I always want wood against my floors so those hard surfaces doesn't, you know, really make dents or whatever in the floors of the car. Anyway, I'll start jacking the back up back here, and then I get it up the same way, and I'll do a concrete block and a brick, slide the 4x4 across, and then at that point I'll take the wheels and tires off of the car and I'll put it on. It's a wheel dolly from Harbor Freight. I'll put the center or third member of the rear end down onto that wheel dolly. And what that does is basically slams the frame to get it really low to the ground so you can get it out of there. So on the front, I put it underneath the cradle. Now I'll use, like right, that big piece of steel square pipe right there, square tubing. I'll put across the frame horns and I'll put the jack underneath it and jack it up. That's how I get both wheels off at the same time. Then I have room to slide my wheel dolly under there. Then I can let the jack down back here. Now when you're jacking up the rear to put the thing on the rear end, I jack it up off this brace right here. I'll jack it up right there, and I'll just use 1 concrete block and that's it on it, and jack it up in there, and it's enough to get the wheels off. So at that point the frame's really low to the ground, and then I'll usually take a tape measure and I'll measure the highest point, which is the front of the A-arm's always the highest point to clearing the board right here, which in my case it wasn't enough. So I went around back to my wood pile and I got some different kinds of wood and I chopped them up in my saw there, and I basically did the same amount all the way around. So now I've got enough clearance, I think, where it'll go all the way out back. So I don't have the motor in it, so the frame will go that way. Now if you try to take the frame this way, you'd have to take it up pretty high because of the rear frame rails are jacked up, you know, they go up in the air. So I always take mine out from the back. Now the cool part about having the wheel dollies on there is you can rotate that frame 360 degrees, but without a second person here helping me, it kind of sucks. Because at this point when I try to push it out, that one wheel dolly's kind of tweaked a little bit, so it kind of has a mind of its own. So the frame wants to go all kinds of different directions. So it's going to take me a little bit to get the frame out from under it to get it out here. But now I am able to get to everything to work on it. So I talked in one of my videos about not having the money to sandblast the frame. If you want your frame really, really nice, that's really the best way to do it. I don't have the money to do it, so what I'm using are stainless steel cut brushes right here that screw onto an electric grinder. I've got 3 of these here, and that should be plenty to do this chassis. And I've done this area right here, and it probably took, I maybe spent 30 or 40 seconds on this area right here, and that's how clean it gets it. It's not perfect, but it gets it pretty clean. And you know, the hard to reach areas, which is going to be up in the body mounts and stuff, and the little pockets of the frame up in here, I will use my little pot sandblaster. I have a little mobile roll around little cheapy thing, and I'll put media in it, and I will lay out a big roll of bisqueen out here on the floor, and then I'll blast that frame areas on that. And then that way, with only having 1 bag of media, I can sweep it up and sift it back into the pot and reuse it. It's going to take a long time, but I'm not really going to spend any money. So this is how I'm going to do it. It's going to be very, very time consuming. But if we didn't have rain all week, like if it was sunny days from now to the weekend, I can guarantee you this would be painted by Saturday. So anyway, this is what I'm going to do here. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish all my fabrication, my steel work on this frame first, before I go through and clean everything. I just wanted to do that area to show how well them knotted cut brushes do on cleanup. But anyway, what I need to do is remove the old transmission mounts that I kind of lopped the ends of them off. Now with the body off of it, once I get it out here especially, I'll be able to cut through that factory weld and, you know, really get that out of there really nice, and then finish grind it and get it cleaned up real nice like it's never been on there. Then I can remove all the pivot points and all that stuff off the frame, and I can finish my motor mounts. Somebody was wanting a closer shot of the motor mounts, but I mean, they're not finished yet. I've still got a plate in the sides and everything. Not even the bottom's just spot welded. I don't even have a bunch of welds on the bottom plate yet. I mean, it has a few pretty big spot welds on it, but anyway, so I got a long way to go on that, and then I can set my cross member up and everything. What I'm going to do is get after I clean off the old frame mounts and stuff, I'm going to get the frame right over here in this part of the driveway, and I'm going to level it, make sure that frame's level. And then I'm going to set my motor and transmission back down in there and use the floor jack at the tail shaft of the Tran to get it, you know, the 3 degrees down like it needs to be. Then I'm going to weld in my tabs for my cross member. I've decided against doing a rear shock bar. I was under there messing around with it yesterday, and the reality of it is, with today's roads, especially around the area I live, all the roads around here are pretty decent. I don't need a shock bar. So what I did was I just modified the G-body shocks that I have. So this is all crap that I had here, and I mean, it's pretty goofy, but it will work. These are rear shocks from an El Camino I had, 81 El Camino Super Sport I had, and they have a dual bolt-on end there that bolts to the chassis on the G-body. Now the bottom's the same eyelet, but it had a metal sleeve in it that I had to take out in the vise. But this does slip right on that stem down there on the rear axle. So it's actually about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch longer than a factory 55 shock, which I thought these were shorter. But the ones that were in this car still had the spiral shocks on it. They just had helper springs on them. They were just a little bit shorter than this one. So what I ended up doing was I didn't want to alter the floor where the shocks go through, so I used a 3/4 inch bolt. That hole in the back there for the shocks is 3/4 inch, so this fits in there nice and snug. I took a piece of plate and drilled a hole in it, put the bolt in it. I used some of those long nuts and basically bolted this shock to those nuts and set that down in there and welded the bolt and the nuts on there. Now I took a grinder to the head of the bolt and I beveled it out, basically dipped it out, so this round eyelet fits down in there and holds it basically. But now this slips up through the floor. It's just bigger hardware instead of having the other stuff with rubber bushings. So anyway, I'll end up not having to buy shocks because I already had a set here. And if, you know, later down the road I go to put a brand new pair of stock replacement shocks, I can just drop these out and put the factory ones back in, not altering anything. So that's kind of cool. You know, it took me about a 1/2 hour to come up with that and fabricate all that crap, and I still got one more to go, but you know, I've got plenty of time. I just got no money, and that's just the way it is. So anyway, guys, I'm pretty happy with it. It's you you know, getting that frame out from under there, it's really going to be able to get to it to clean it up. Now, it is going to take me a while to cut brush it because I don't want to burn my grinder up. If I try to do that whole frame, I'd end up burning that grinder to the ground. So, you know, I'll work it for probably about, you know, 15 or 20 minutes, then I'll shut it off and I'll wait a couple hours and let it get nice and cool back down, and then I'll fire it up and go again. So it's going to take a while to clean the frame, but for now, the main thing I want to do is get my fabrication stuff done, get the motor mounts all finished out and plated in all 4 sides, remove the factory mounts, get the cross member tabs built and put in, and pretty much go from there. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this chassis out from under here. So this might be a little bit of entertainment for y'all, because be my luck, the damn thing won't come out from under there. I gotta take my blocks down here. Of all times, I wish I had a buddy here. All right, it's free. That is pretty awesome. Whew. All right, so there's the chassis out from under the car. And look how dirty this thing is. I am pretty sure this car was from a dirt road life, because I mean, this is definitely dirt. Just needs a little bit of cleanup. It's all caked up in there. I noticed my rear bar back here has a dent in it from somebody jacking it up probably, so I'm going to dolly that out. Somebody at one time had painted the leaf springs and the rear axle orange, so she was a hot rod. That whole inside of that body mount, the bottom of it's full of gunk. But, I mean, overall the frame's in pretty nice shape. It's not rusted out or nothing, thank goodness. Anyway, that's kind of what she looks like there. I am so glad somebody put an idler bearing kit in that. Man, that thing steered so nice. I'm just going to reuse it. So that's it, guys, I guess. Set you up right here. Try this out here. kind of gives you an idea how fast it is. There's always going to be like tar and stuff from the roads on there, so it's got a pretty good coating, so you got to kind of work it a little bit. But anyway, I can show you this if I got more time. I got 1642, we're about out. If you're ever wondering where your VIN number is on your chassis, it's right here and right here. They're always on that outer frame rail right here, and they're usually stamped twice. But people say they're in other areas of the frame, but I've done a couple of Tri-5 chassis and I've never seen them in the other places, but it's for sure usually stamped in 2 spots. Anyway guys, I'm gonna cut the video off and give me something to drink.